Dharma.
How are you all? I hope you all are enjoying the learning last videos about the social sciences. Now, today also we are going to see one of the chapter from history that we have studied little bit in previous lecture. So now we are going to continue that only. So before that, I want to revise you the content what we have studied already from the first chapter of history. But before that, I have given a little bit explanation about what we are going to learn in whole year. So few chapters are there for the first semester 1 to 5. In that we are going to learn the critical summary of history from the ancient to modern period, and also the applied history, and also the mass media history, and the entertainment media and history, and also the sport, literature and history, tourism and history and other disciplines. So tourism and history, what exactly the tourism has the history and what are the benefits of it, that also we are going to see. That yesterday we have discussed in previous lecture. You can see all these things. So next we have studied that first chapter we started yesterday, the historiography development in the West. So actually what is meant by historiography, that yesterday I explained. So now we will see the what development exactly took place into the West. West means in European countries. So that we are going to see now today. So first content is that yesterday we have learned that 1.1 tradition of historiography. So tradition of historiography. Tradition means exactly how historiography used in the past for writing particular book on history, and how the historians used other methods which are essential for writing. So those all things we have studied yesterday. So I want to revise you again that for in a tradition of historiography, the only written, oral or material sources are used as a source for writing history or collecting information. Only they saw towards the sources as a for collecting information. But in modern age, in today's age, the people, these historians and authors were using the authors are using the special scientific empirical method or laboratory method for the study of history that we are today going to see. So then after we have studied yesterday the historical research method, which are the which are the methods are necessary, which points are necessary, on based on which points we have to exactly study the historical information. So those points we have discussed through the web chart. In that we have studied that writing of history, narrative. Also we have studied that historical research, examining relevant references of the available historical information. Also we have studied the critical examining of various sources in history. Also formulating hypothesis, this one also important. The conclusion of the author, the imaginary conclusion at the end of the book of the author for his narration. So that is also important. And also after that we have studied the collection of historical information, highlighting the process that lead to historical transition, carrying comparative analysis. So comparative analysis, the information whatever collected by the historian, that at the end they have to compare and perfectly they have to work on it and analyze it, and then they have to narrate the information. So these points we have studied yesterday. In that we have studied some methods are necessary, they have to use for using while using historiography, while narrating. So which methods regarding to study of history, that all yesterday we have studied that archaeology and archival science, manuscriptology, and also epigraphy, study of the inscriptions, and also analysis of learning style, lettering style, and also the linguistic and numeristic study of coins, and genealogy. The last important point yesterday I explained in previous lecture, that is genealogy. So genealogy is related to the generation, and authors must have the knowledge about the generation. Means, for example, a king after his prince and after his generation follows the rule on a particular kingdom, that matter comes into the genealogy. So yesterday I told you this all, and then after we have studied the tradition of historiography. So tradition of historiography means exactly in ancient time how the people keeping the record of history about their history. So we have studied very easy one. We have learning this all from the 6th standard, that so songs are there, folk songs are there, stories are there, paintings are there, sculptures are there, cave paintings are there, inscriptions are there, stone inscriptions are there, so coins are there, on everything they are writing. So all these are things we have studied. These all sources are used in the tradition historiography. Material source, oral source and written source, these all sources are used in a study of historiography, okay, while narrating the book. Here we will continue next one, our point, modern historiography. Okay students, we will proceed now towards our second point, 1.2, modern historiography. Yesterday we have studied traditional historiography. Now modern, in today's age, what type of historiography we using, what methods we using to write it, so that we are going to see now. So our subject history, first chapter of history, the historiography development in the West. So in that, tradition of historiography is over now. Now modern historiography. So, 4 main characters of modern historiography that we are going to see. Characters are important. Characteristics. So, which are they? So that we are going to. Its method is based on scientific principle. It's begin with the formulation of relevant questions. See, yesterday we have studied also and we discussed also. So what? It's based on scientific method. Modern historiography is based on scientific method. So first point you have to keep in your mind while writing modern historiography, it is totally based on scientific method. Scientifically, the historians are thinking and taking the base of science for the relevant references. Okay, so next in that only, it begins with the formulation of relevant questions. Okay. So while preparing or while narrating the book, while writing the book using historiography, we must, or the author must formulate the questionnaire. These questions are, next point, second in this, these questions are orthopocentric. It means these questions are about the deeds of the member of the ancient human, deeds of the ancient human or a member about the history. So deeds means work about the human being. So whatever work did by human being in the past about him, these are all relevant questions should be. So next one, societies of a particular period, history does not suggest any interrelation between the divine and human deeds. So divine means related to God and also the human work. So history does not suggest any interrelation between the God means divine and human deeds means human work. So this this one second characteristics. Now we are going to see third one. Answer to these questions are supported by reliable evidence. Suppose any author prepared the questionnaire and if he got an answer, so that answer must have the base, reliable base, not an imaginary. So it must have a proof or evidence for the answer, so that questions are considered for the narrating the book using the historiography. Okay, now next one, fourth, history. History presents the graph of mankind's journey with the help of past human deeds. See, in history what we understand, this is one of the journey, one of the timeline. So this journey presented by the time, so it must see presents the graph of mankind's journey with the human deeds. So it is, history can present the journey with the work of human beings. So whatever deeds or work did in the past by the human, so that is the presentation in the history that we can see. Next, now we will see it is said that the modern historiography with the above characteristics has the roots of the ancient Greek historical writing. See, so we can see the origin, the birth of historiography in a Greek city. So few are the famous noble characters are there who are the historians. So afterwards we are going to study about them, but here we can see the origin, the birth of historiography, which is used in ancient time in a Greek city. So next what we are going to see, history is originally a Greek term. So originally it belongs to the Greek, and Herodotus, the Greek historian of the 5th century BCE, used the first for his book entitled The Histories. So Greek historian, the name of historian is Herodotus. So he entitled the first book in Greek city. So Herodotus, one of the historian, and then what is the name of his book? The name of the book is The Histories. The Histories. The Histories. The Histories is the one of the book firstly wrote in a Greek city by the Herodotus. So we can see the birth, the origin, the main place where the historiography took a birth, that in the city of Greek. Okay. Okay, students. Now we have a little bit information we took about the Herodotus. Firstly, the father. We can say the father of. We cannot say like this, but originally it took birth in Greek. So father is different. Voltaire, that we are going to see the founder. Modern historiography's founder is Voltaire, that afterward we are going to see. So now we are going to see third point, 1.3, development of scientific perspective in Europe and historiography. See, development of scientific perspective. Perspective means view towards. Suppose in daily routine we have a perspective towards the peoples, whatever whoever living in our home and whoever our friends. So and we behaving with them according to the knowledge, means we have a little bit knowledge about our friends, our family members, and we are talking with them. So we have a particular view already decided and fixed. One of the prejudice we have kept in our mind and we are talking towards them. So here we can see the one of the perspective, development of scientific perspective and perspective in the Europe and historiography. So some of the authors have developed a scientific view towards the historiography, but it was not in a ancient time, but now it has developed in Europe, in the West, that authors or historians are started to think to take information or collect the information, and while using historiography write a book. For that they using scientific methods. So this view, history must be must be wrote on the scientific base. That view is developed, so that we are going to see development of scientific perspective in Europe and historiography. And towards historiography they started to think to use various methods, reliable methods in history, so that we are going to see now. Till the 18th century, Europe had achieved a remarkable progress in the fields of philosophy and science. So here two fields are there. One of the philosophy. So in this philosophy, the knowledge regarding the god, goddess and tradition, customs and rules and regulations followed by the society. So about this, one of the separate field, and another one is there for science. So in Europe, in 18th century, is people started to see towards history by using the scientific base. So we are going to see now next what happens. Scholars by then had come to believe in the possibility of studying the social and historical truths by applying scientific methods. See, scholars, authors, historians, they started to believe, or they started to collect the information using science based, using the base of science. But before it was not like that. They directly use their material source, historical, other sources, coins, everything, other material, and they have given their imaginary conclusion on that. But now we are, means the authors and historians using the scientific base for writing history. Now next one. Now the philosophical discussion focused more and more on the objectivity in history and historiography. So the main section developed philosophy and with the objectivity in the section of historiography. Now next one. Prior to the 18th century, all European universities were interested only in the philosophical discourse and revolving around the divine phenomena. However, gradually this scenario began to change. See, in 18th century, many of the philosophers who started to give speech, means on a discourses, means speech only on philosophy, means about the god, customs, tradition which is followed by society. On the base of that, they started to give only speech. But this phenomena changed after few years. So people started to focus on science. So when, that we are going to see now. However, gradually this scenario began to change in 1737. The Göttingen University was founded in Germany. This university for the first time had independent department of history. Later the other German universities also became centers of historical studies. See, mainly in this paragraph we have to see that in European cities in 18th century, many of the people started to give speech, we can say discourses on the philosophy only. But afterward, one of the university, that Göttingen University from Germany, have given a first time, they have opened first time the separate section for the history. They started history subject, the study of history in Germany. So due to that, history got a scope in European cities, and later other German universities also became as centers of the historical studies. So many in Germany, many places the study centers were started for the history. Okay, students, now we are going to see next point, notable scholars. So what is exactly that 1.4 notable scholars we are going to see. Notable scholars. So notable scholars who did or who given the valuable contribution in a historiography, that all scholars, that all historians we are going to see from the West. So which are they that we are going to see now? First of all, we will take a little bit information about it. So the contribution of many scholars are important in the development of historiography. For the developing historiography, who given the contribution that we are going to see now. Let us have the look at the contributions of the few notable scholars. So first one scholar we are going to see, Rene Descartes. So 1596 to 1650. So first scholar we are going to see, Rene Descartes. Okay, here I will write here 1596 century to 1650, his lifespan. So you have to keep in mind first scholar Rene Descartes. What contribution he gave to the historiography for development, that we are going to see. Rene Descartes was the foremost among the scholars who insisted on verifying the reliability of the historical document by critically examining them. See, first he said that if you using any document, it must be reliable, and after that you have to critically examine, means seriously you have to examine with very interestingly or very practically you have to examine it. Really, is it a reliable document for using for the historiography for narrating the book? He said that this statement. So next one we are going to see what he said. Among the rulers given by him in his book Discourse on the Method, the following is supposed to have a great impact on the scientific method of research. Never to accept anything for true till all grounds of doubts are excluded. See, he said that at last, while writing the book or while using historiography, never use information till all doubt should be cleared. So, after all questions have cleared, then if there is no doubt, no question about the information, then you can take that information for the narrating the book while using the historiography. This statement given by the Rene Descartes. So first author, first historian we have studied. Now we are going to see next one, Voltaire. Okay students, next author or writer historian we can say Voltaire, 1694 to 1778. Next author or historian we can say Voltaire. His lifespan we can see that his work 1694 to 1778. Okay, let's we see what said by Voltaire about the historiography. Voltaire's original name was Francois Marie Arcueil. He was French. He belongs to France. He opened that along with the objective truth and chronology of the historical events, considering social traditions, trade, economy, agriculture, etc. was also equally important in historiography. It gave rise to thought that understanding all aspects of human life is important for history writing. Thus, it is said that Voltaire was the founder of modern historiography. So, the first fill in the blanks, the answer here we can get the answer about that statement, who is the founder of modern historiography. So, Voltaire is the father we can say and also founder of historiography. So, Voltaire, he said that history must be based on the all things of the social life. So which are they? So trade, economy, agriculture, and also equally important in historiography. It gave rise to the thought of understanding for history writing. These all things are important for history writing. And also he said that he opened along with objective truth and chronology. So chronology is important while writing historiography. The historian must know the events took place on particular time. So chronology also important, and objectivity while writing the historiography, while using historiography method in that time. So Voltaire said that along with this, all other things about society, means all social tradition, customs and historical events, agriculture, economy, these all aspects are important for the history writing. So thus it is said that Voltaire was the founder of modern historiography. Okay. Okay students, we are going to see now next scholar who given his valuable contribution for the development of historiography. The name of author is George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel. So George William Friedrich Hegel. So Hegel was a German philosopher. He insisted that the historical reality should be presented in logical manner. See, many were the historians said or authors said that the history must be depend upon the scientific method. But here Hegel said that history must be based on logical method. So see what happened afterwards. So he insisted that the historical reality should be presented in the logical manner. To him, the timeline of historical events was indicative of progress. He also thought that the presentation of history is bound to change over time as new evidence would come forth. See, he said that the timeline is important in a learning of history, and also it gives a new evidence, new proof in a future, in a next generation. With Hegel's philosophy, many scholars were convinced that historical methods were not of lesser quality, though they differed from scientific methods. See, many were given support to the Hegel's philosophy or Hegel's method. So they given support, and they said that the historical methods were not of lesser quality, though they differ from scientific method. The collection of his lectures and articles is published in the book entitled Encyclopedia of Philosophical Sciences. His book Reason in History is well known. So his book name is Reason in History. In history. So one of the famous historian Hegel, and his book name is Reasons in History, one of the well known for the world. So again, what he said extra about the historiography that we are going to see now. According to Hegel, grasping the meaning of any event happens in the terms of two direct opposite. See, suppose we are going to collect the information about particular event. So that time we must know the another side of the event. If you want to find out the truth, if you study the one side, then you will not get the particular truth of the event. So that's why he said that always you have to study the both side, for example coin. So you have to take a reference of both sides, then you will get the exact truth of a particular event said by Hegel. So what he said that we are going to see now. Human mind is cannot understand the true nature of that event without understanding the opposites for the opposites. See, human mind is unable to collect the truth of studying after only one side of a particular event. So he said that human must or people must study the both side, means first front side and opposite side of the event, then the humans will get a particular truth about that event said by the Hegel. So his statement is it. So next one we are going to see, in order to understand the true nature of the thing, one needs to know the both true and false, similarly good and bad, and the method of analysis which be based on opposites known as dialectics. So he said that person or author must try to find out truth with a nature of good, bad, true, false, and he must study of the opposite side of the event. So then we will get the particular answer. So he started the method analysis which based on opposites is known as dialectics. In this method, the theory is proposed at the beginning, which is called thesis. Then another theory is proposed which is contrary to the thesis. This is called antithesis. And after through logical discussion of the both new thesis is proved, which include gist of the both, the thesis is the antithesis. The process of arriving at the new thesis is called synthesis. So firstly we know that already we in English grammar also we using the synthesis analysis. So what these terms, what these things we know well. So how the synthesis took birth that we see here. Firstly one of the method introduced by the Hegel, that is thesis, and afterward another one method for the opposite study he introduced that antithesis, and afterward combining these both he lastly introduced one method that is called synthesis for the study of historiography. Okay, so we will continue next author or historian. Okay, next historian we will see who given the valuable contribution for the historiography. Historiography in that, see, Leopold von Ranke. And his lifespan we can see the 1795 to 1886. to 1886. So what he said and what work he did about for the development of historiography that we are going to see now. Historiography of the 19th century was greatly influenced by the thoughts of Leopold von Ranke of Berlin University. He spoke about the critical method of historical research. Serious method, one of the main method which used in a study of history, that he spoke about it. So he put emphasis on the utmost importance of information gathered through the original documents. He also stated that all type of documents associated with historical events need to be examined with the greatest care. So he also suggests, same as it is another author, that whatever original documents we are getting for the writings of history, that should be very carefully examined for writing. So he said that this statement. He believed that with this method it was possible to read the historical truth. So on the basis of this statement he said that we are able to collect, or we are able to get the truth or real correct information of history when we will examine critically the particular information which is be collected based on original documents. So next one, collection of his articles is published in the two books entitled The Theory and Practice of History and The Secret of World History. So he wrote the two books. The name of the two books are The Theory and the Practice of History and The Secret of World History. Now next author we are going to see the Karl Marx. Karl Marx. Karl Marx and his lifespan we are going to see that 1880 to 1883. So we well know a little bit, we have information, we know the information about this historian because already we have studied in previous standards about the Karl Marx theories, methods that we have studied already. So now we are going to see what contribution he gave for the development of historiography. In the latter half of the 19th century, a new school of thought arose, keeping in view a new thesis formulated by Karl Marx. So what he formulated that we are going to see now. According to Karl Marx, history was not about abstract ideas. So firstly he given the statement that history is not about the abstract ideas which were not present, the imaginary ideas. So history should not be based on abstract ideas. It was about living people. History must about the reality, living people, and human relationships are shaped by fundamental needs of people and ownership as well as nature of the prevalent means of production to meet these needs. See, many of the people today also we are living in society. We are living in a society, we have created relations with other for the purpose of need. See, there is a statement, there is a one of the quote in English that necessity is the mother of invention. So here also due to the necessity, due to the needs to fulfill the needs, we are living in society. For many other things are there, protection is there, security is also there, our food, our shelter, all things we will get in a society. So that's why we have many other needs. So that's why people are creating relations for fulfilling their needs, said by the Karl Marx. And also he said that we living in that nature, productive nature, where we can fulfill our needs, said by the Karl Marx. Now next one we are going to see in this only. The accessibility of these means to different strata of the society may not be equal. This inequality causes to division of the society into the classes. See, we are living in society, okay, but we have different type of classes in a society which are based on the needs. If we are living together for our needs, then in society different classes will be created. So upper class, lower class, richest, middle and poor, this type of classes. So there are also many drawbacks. So what are the drawbacks that said by Karl Marx that we are going to see now? So he firstly said that who have productive manpower, that class of people using exploitation, they exploiting to the poor people. Economical, in the field of economy or in the field of work, they start to exploit the people, said by Karl Marx. So what he said, according to the Karl Marx, human history is the history of class struggle. According to Karl Marx, humans are living together in the society. So the living means the history is what history said. They are struggling for developing their class, and who are already developed, which is richest upper class, they using poor people for the exploitations. They exploiting to the poor people or lower class, said by Karl Marx. So next one we are going to see in this only. As the class owns the means of production, economically exploits the rest of other classes, Das Kapital, a treatise written by the most referred book all over the world. So one of the book written by the Karl Marx based on the social system, on class system, wrote by the Karl Marx. The book name is Das Kapital. So you have to keep in mind the book name is Das Kapital. So author Karl Marx. And this book is most referred book all over the world. Okay, here we will stop now and we will continue next part of what it is annal school we are going to see next. Okay students, next one we are going to see that beside the authors or historians, few schools are also there that played important role for the development of historiography. That so in that one annal school also is there. So what it exactly did for the development of historiography, that we are going to see now. So annal schools. So this is the one of the special schools for started development of historiography that we are going to see. At the onset of the 20th century, a new school of the historiography arose in France, mainly in France, which is known as annal school. Annal school gave the new direction to the history writing. It was recognized now that history is not only about political events, king, queens, great leaders, and accordingly politics. So that school suggested that said that the history is not related to only the documents of the king, queens, and politics, and also the wars and leaders. So diplomacy and wars, but also about the climate, local people, agricultural, trade, technology, means of communication, social division and their collective psychology, etc. The historical times. The annal school was started by French historians. So mainly if we see this school specially started for the development of historiography, and in that they given statement that history is not only about the king, queens, leaders, war, but history is must be related to the agricultural, social conditions, divisions, collective psychology, and also about technology, and also the historical timelines. So this statement given by the annal school. So now one of the next point is we are going to see now feminist historiography. Feminist historiography. In this we are going to see the development, the status of the woman, and recreate the social structure for the woman, the social base for the woman through the historiography. So what exactly happened, that we are going to see now. Feminist historiography means the restructuring of the history from the perspective of the woman. See, today also many women are harassed by the society, and they have not equal rights like men. So this social condition came from ancient time also. So the status is important. We must give equal status to women. Today we are trying to give, our government given or implemented many other policies for the women, women development, women empowerment, but still we have not got that much success that how much is necessary. So here also we can see the feminist historiographies did the work to develop or recreate the empowerment of women. So they mainly focused on the problems of the woman in society. So here the writing of Simone de Beauvoir helped to establishing the fundamental feminism. She was French and feminist historiography emphasized not only the inclusion of women in history but also rethinking of the male dominated perspective of the history. See, male dominated view means perspective means view, whatever view is there towards the men, but it is not same towards the woman. So for the rethinking work she did into the his writing in historiography that we are going to see now. It drove historical research to focus in depth on various aspects of women's life, such as their employment, their role in a trade union institutions. See, we can see that she focused mainly in historiography that the status of women and also the role of women in a various section, various fields in a business, in a employment, in also union and in institutions. So in this all section she want to give a equal value for the woman and men. So she given this statement in her feminist historiography, so that we are seeing now, working for their cause, their family life, etc. In the historical writing portrayed as independent social class. So after 1990, after this feminist historiography, women were portrayed that they have an independent, their separate class in a society. So mainly we can see in feminist historiography, the Simone has played important role to develop the status of woman, and she want to solve the problems of woman life. So this information we got from the feminist historiography. So next point we are going to see another author. Okay, continue. Okay students, now we are going to see last historian author, Michel Foucault, 1926 to 1984. Michel Foucault. And his lifespan is 1926 to 1984. So in this lifespan, whatever work he did for the development of modern historiography that we are going to see. So last historian we are seeing now. So the first French historian of the 20th century, Michel Foucault, brought forth a new concept in historiography. So one new concept he brought that we are going to see now. He, in his book Archaeology of Knowledge, mainly we know the archaeology, one of the method for the study of history. So what he wrote, one of the book on it. So what he said, Archaeology of Knowledge, argued that the prevailing practice of arranging the historical events in a chronological order is not right. He said that we are arranging the historical events in a chronological order, that is not right, that is not correct, said by Michel Foucault. And he drew attention to the fact that archaeology does not strive to reach the ultimate historical truth, but attempts to explain various transitions in the past. He said that the statement, with the archaeology we are unable to get a right information in a history. So he said that only we can understand the transition between humans, that only we can understand through the archaeology. So actual truth we will not get through the archaeology, said by Mitchell Foucault. So next one, in this what he said we are going to see now. Foucault felt that explaining the transition in history is more important. He called his method the archaeology of knowledge. So whatever transition took place in between the human deeds in the past, that is only important, said by the Mitchell Foucault, and he wrote one book. That name of that book is called Archaeology of Knowledge. Foucault subjected the so far unacknowledged areas by the historians, such as psychological disorders. See, many were the aspects were left by the other historian, but Mitchell Foucault focused that other hidden facts. So in that one important, that unacknowledged areas, in that one see the psychological disorders also, science of medicine, and also the prison administration, etc., to historical analysis. So here Mitchell Foucault focused on another aspects of history, in that psychological disorder and science of medicine and prison administration, mainly the administration in the jail. On that he focused and collected more information in the history. So thus the scope of historiography kept continuously expanding. So writing of histories of various subjects. These are the historians, they wrote many books, narratives on using historiography method, but this expanded with the time, and subjects, in which subjects it has expanded now, literature, architecture, sculpture, drawing and painting, music, dance, drama, films and televisions, etc., come into the practice. So about other fields, in other fields historiography is developed, and that all things about now, whatever I said just now about these all fields, we are going to study in next chapters and about their history. So here we have finished our lesson, and whatever your queries are there, you can ask me in a comment box, and you can directly call and ask me, no problem. I will clear your doubts about this lesson. But in next lesson we are going to discuss the question answer. Very few questions are there, and one time you have to read carefully the whole lesson, and then I will surely tell you, definitely you will get a clear idea about this lesson. So here I will stop today. Thank you so much.